It's a new twist on David versus Goliath as an environmental group begins legal action against ExxonMobil. The Conservation Law Foundation is alleging the petroleum giant knowingly worked to discredit climate change science for more than 3 decades. The suit goes on to say the Fortune 500 company has caused extensive environmental damage, like in this area along the Mystic River in Chelsea and Everett. This lawsuit, a first of its kind, drew a sharp response from ExxonMobil. In a statement sent to us, a company spokesperson said, in part, ExxonMobil believes the risk of climate change is clear and warrants action. We're taking action by reducing greenhouse gas emissions in our operations, helping consumers reduce their emissions, supporting research, and participating in constructive dialogue on policy options. Joining me now are 2 of the main players behind today's lawsuit. Bradley Campbell is president of the Conservation Law Foundation. Brad, good to see you. E.K. Khalsa is president of the Mystic River Watershed Association. Good to see you, too. Let's get to the local in a second. Brad, I want to start with you. So you're contending they knew the dangers of climate change. They hid them. They denied them. They funded research in an attempt to discredit them. Is that what you're saying in this thing?
That's very clear from a number of investigations, including ours. Even as their own scientists confirmed the impact of climate change, they tried to tell the public otherwise.
How do you know this?
Well, there have been numerous investigations relying on Exxon's own internal documents where their scientists have said, as early as the Nixon administration, that carbon dioxide emissions were a cause of global warming, that the consequences would be catastrophic unless action was taken.
Well, they said, part of that statement that I read a minute ago, and then further part, to suggest that we had reached definitive conclusions decades before the world's experts, and while climate science was in an early stage of development, is not credible. So?
Well, I would say Pulitzer Prize-winning publications have looked at the documents, as we have, and they say exactly the opposite, that their scientists had reached firm conclusions on the issues, and the only people they didn't inform was the public, who they deceived.
How is this different? What is it, 17 attorneys general, I think including ours, but a bunch of attorneys general are also litigating against them. What's the difference between what they're doing and what you're doing?
Well, the attorneys general have not decided to bring any actions against ExxonMobil yet, and they're really looking at the criminal statutes and the statutes that prosecutors have at their disposal. We're using the federal environmental laws and the citizen suits to say whatever else ExxonMobil may have done, they're not complying with the law in terms of making this facility ready for climate change.
EK, locally, what's the contention in this thing? What's the harm that's being done that is trying to be righted by this litigation?
Well, I think one of the things everyone knows is that for 40 years, local groups, public officials, and communities have worked hard to restore the Mystic River to good health, and we're making progress. It is very concerning and dismaying to consider that ExxonMobil's actions may be putting all of that in jeopardy.
How are they doing that? How are they putting it in jeopardy?
Well, unfortunately, if climate change impacts arrive, as apparently ExxonMobil knows they will, this facility can be inundated by large-scale storms or excessive precipitation, and all of the contamination on their sites and that's stored on site may be released into the surrounding territory, including local neighborhoods and the Mystic River itself.
So you say it's not climate change ready is one of the contentions. Is that correct?
That seems very clear.
But my understanding is you said if rising sea levels or a catastrophic storm happen, they might be releasing. Are you not alleging in this litigation that they're already pollutants, some of which are carcinogenic, are actually being leaked into the Mystic as we speak? Is that not part of the contention?
Yes, this was one of the great disappointments of what CEOF discovered during their investigation, which was that ExxonMobil in Everett is violating its own stormwater permit. And through that violation is discharging contamination to the Mystic River on a regular basis already.
You know, but they're saying also in this statement, and by the way, the only reason we didn't put up the whole statement is because it's very, very long. They go on to say that they're in compliance with environmental rules and that that's all been signed off by state and federal regulators. Is that not true, Brad?
That is not true. ExxonMobil, we looked at a 3-year period, and there was only one calendar quarter over 3 years where, by their own reporting, they were in compliance according to the U.S. EPA's database. So that's just a misstatement of the facts.
You know, to step back from a little bit, as a lay, well, not a lay, I'm theoretically a lawyer, I was a lawyer, but as a lay observer of this sounds very much like the whole cigarette thing that led to a huge settlement in 1998 with, I think, 40-some attorneys general. Basically, what the attorneys general were then saying, cigarette companies here, hid information, put out faulty science, lied to people. Obviously, there was a lot of harm done as a result. Are the parallels as obvious as they are to me, to you?
Absolutely. In fact, in some cases, ExxonMobil is using the same lawyers, the same lobbyists that the tobacco industry used in order to deceive the public. So it's not only a direct parallel, they're in fact using the same playbook and the same players.
What are you looking for in the local part of this? Because in the Globe story that came out this afternoon, it says that the suit will proceed if ExxonMobil does not address the pollution concerns. So if they do address the pollution concerns, this thing disappears? I mean, what are you looking for?
Well, I think the Clean Water Action, the Clean Water Act case, which is the NIPD's permit, which is the current ongoing discharge of pollution to the Mystic, can be addressed by the facility. Our sense is that we understand there are large industrial and transportation facilities that make their way through the Mystic, but we feel that they should go above and beyond to show us how it's done well. ExxonMobil needs to do that. They need to step up to the plate. They need to address the facility's ongoing contamination of the river and prepare reports that demonstrate by their own observation that they're succeeding in that effort.
Why wouldn't they do that? Just for financial reasons? Because it costs money? I mean, why wouldn't they operate? They say they're operating in an environmentally responsible way. You obviously are alleging they don't. Why would they not engage in environmentally sound behaviors? Is it just about money? Is it just about money? What is it?
I think it is just about money. If they had to harden and make all of their facilities climate ready, it would be a big price tag. And so for them, they are essentially rolling the dice with our communities by saying, we'll take the hit if this facility has a big release.
You know, Brad, I'm going to talk big picture for a second. There was a report, I think it was in Politico, I'm not sure where, that says there was a meeting in January. Bill McKibben, who's been here from 350.org, ironically, the Rockefeller Family Fund, which obviously Rockefeller is involved with Standard Oil, which is the predecessor to obviously ExxonMobil, Greenpeace, and that you were there too, and this was all part of some big strategy to essentially, they didn't use these words, but to bring ExxonMobil, at least the worst of ExxonMobil, to its knees. Were you part of this deal?
Well, I meet with national environmental groups and funders all the time to try to develop a climate strategy when we're faced with hundreds of millions of dollars of spending by the big oil companies and their sponsored entities to discredit climate science.
So the answer is yes. I mean, the answer is you were there, and I
was there, and we had developed this investigation far earlier, well before that meeting. And so this is really an ongoing effort to make sure the Mystic River is protected and to make the point that these facilities, if they're going to certify that they've done everything they can to avoid a discharge, they need to be climate ready.
You know, beyond the local things, we only have 30 seconds left. Is the end game, since we talked about the cigarette parallel, is it like the cigarette thing? Is that there's some sweeping, this is the beginning of a national effort that causes them to settle with you and organizations like yours and local groups like theirs so that they do commit to pay to clean up what they've done and to ensure that they are climate change ready? Is that the end game? Is that the big picture?
The end game is to make sure communities are protected. Protected from the kinds of carcinogens and other toxic that this facility is releasing in everyday conditions and would release in catastrophic quantities when we start to see climate change's impacts.
Brad, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
EK, good to see you.
Thank you very much, Jim.
I will. Thank you both.